Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us on this beautiful day. Thanks so much for spending part of your day with us. It's now been a few weeks since the whole gerrymandering fight, or what the Democrats are calling gerrymandering fight in Texas for their redistricting map, having a very hard time being able to fathom with it. Vice President J.D. Vance was on, I guess it's MSNBC or MS Now, whatever you want to call it. Their rebranding efforts not going too well, but the Democrats, nonetheless, going absolutely berserk about this, what they're calling gerrymandering. It's not gerrymandering, it's redistricting, because the Democrats have allowed illegals to be counted in census. That's clearly going to be a breach of issues, a breach of the Constitution, because illegals aren't allowed to vote in this country. So J.D. Vance was on with MSNBC, or MS Now, whatever you want to call it, BS Now, I think is probably the most prevalent way to say it about them, and was asked about what they're calling gerrymandering. Take a listen.
We had way fewer House seats than we should have. One, if the Democrats hadn't aggressively gerrymandered, and two, if illegal aliens weren't counted in the census for purposes of apportioning congressional seats. The best estimates I've seen is that in California, for example, has 5 additional congressional seats than it should have, because they count illegal aliens for the purpose of apportioning representatives. Meanwhile, Ohio, my home state, lost a representative. We're literally losing representatives for American citizens in order to give congressional representation to illegal aliens. Republicans are trying to balance out the scales a little bit for basic fairness and for the integrity of our democracy, which the president cares about as much as anybody in the country.
I mean, it makes sense, right? California's been stealing seats for as long as we could remember. Maryland redistricted and did some crazy stuff over there. Ohio's lost congressional seats. You look up and down the list, these Democrats have been doing this for years. So now the Republicans finally want to get a brain, get smart, and do it the legitimate way. Now, the Democrats, how they've done it has been the furthest thing from legitimate. You look at how some of these maps are drawn, and I mean, they're drawn in the most obscure way possible, with the gerrymandering. So the Republicans have decided they're going to do it the legitimate way, and that's exactly what they're doing. So we'll see how it plays out. But it's not going to be good for the Marxist Democrats. J.D. Vance was also asked by the radical Dems over on MS Now, or MSDNC, or BS Now, like I said, whatever you want to call it, whatever's easiest for you. And he was asked about what message it is sending to the country to have the National Guard and the federalization in Washington, D.C., which, by the way, now looks like it's going to be heading to Chicago and New York following suit, because these states, these cities, can't simply get their things under control. Crime is out of control. It's running rampant, and Donald Trump feels the need to protect all Americans, to keep all Americans safe. Take a listen to J.D. Vance when asked about it.
We don't have to live like this. My message to my fellow citizens here in D.C. or all across the country would be that allowing vagrants and armed robberies to take over your city, that's a policy choice. What President Trump is showing is that if you just empower local law enforcement to arrest and prosecute the bad guys, we can take back American streets. You, as a young family, whatever the color of your skin, you should not have to cross the street because there's a crazy person yelling at your children on the other side. You should not be worried that if you take your son out for a meal at 8 o'clock in the evening, an armed robber is going to assault your family. This is a policy choice to allow lawlessness to overrun our cities. The president has made a different policy choice. And I think what he's showing the entire American community is that we don't have to live like this. And that's the biggest thing that will come out of D.C. It matters a lot for D.C., but I think it matters more for the whole country to see that if we just make better choices, we can take back our cities.
Why should America have to live like this? And as I've said, the cavalry is coming. 1,700 National Guardsmen from 19 states are mobilizing to help President Trump. Also with this, stop illegal migration and crime across it. It's going to be coming to Chicago. It may very well be coming to Los Angeles. It may very well be coming to New York City. These are some of the places where Donald Trump had floated is going to see a change. If you can't run your city, if you can't run your state, Donald Trump will do it for you. I say this every day here on this show. Donald Trump is a president for all Americans, not just the people that voted for him, not just the red states that voted for him. He's a president for everybody. And that includes Washington, D.C., where, as I often joke, he maybe got 7 total votes in the place because of how democratic and how many bureaucrats live in that place and how many of them vote in that place. He's a president for all Americans. J.D. Vance was also asked by Kristen Walker on failed MSDNC in that interview about why Donald Trump is being so light and easy on Vladimir Putin. Can you imagine that? These are the same people who, when Donald Trump ends this war between Russia and Ukraine, will make some sort of excuse like this, that Donald Trump is being easy on them. And if he doesn't end the war between them because of their rhetoric like this, they'll say Donald Trump was a con artist. He was BS. He couldn't end the war like he said he was going to. They speak out both sides of their mouth, and nobody holds them accountable. But we do. Take a listen when JD was asked about why Donald Trump is being so easy on Vladimir.
Where exactly is the pressure on Russia to do anything if you're not right now imposing new sanctions? How do you get them to a place of getting to the table with Zelensky and stopping to drop bombs?
But Kristen, I think that question betrays a fundamental misunderstanding of where we are. The president has applied aggressive economic leverage, for example, the secondary tariffs on India, to try to make it harder for the Russians to get rich from their oil economy. He's tried to make it clear that Russia can be reinvited into the world economy if they stop the killing, but they're going to continue to be isolated if they don't stop the killing. The president has applied more economic pressure to the Russians to stop this war than Biden did in 3 years. So the idea that we're not doing anything, we're already doing things right now, and this is how negotiation works. You do something, you talk to the parties, you try to see if there's a meeting of minds. Again, we believe we've already seen some significant concessions from both sides just in the last few weeks. We're going to eventually be successful, or we'll hit a brick wall. And if we hit a brick wall, then we're going to continue this process of negotiation, of applying leverage. This is the energetic diplomacy that's going to bring this war to a close.
It's so simple. And J.D. Vance, I don't think could have put it any better than he just did. Donald Trump wants to handle this thing as he has, all the way back to 2016, diplomatically. But Welker and MSDNC or MS Now and CNN and the rest of them will be the same ones criticizing if Donald Trump were to go drop a nuclear weapon on Russia. He's a war hawk. He's a criminal. He's a warmonger. This is what we told you all about him all along. They speak out both sides of their mouths. Nobody holds them accountable. They want peace with Russia and Ukraine, but they don't want Donald Trump to do it diplomatically. So how does he do it? Does he go drop some bombs on Moscow? What's the best way to do it, MS Now? What's the best way to do it, CNN? And why is nobody holding them accountable? You turn on Fox News, I can guarantee you, and nobody's asking the question, Sean Hannity, Brett Baer, any of them, why the mainstream media talks out both sides of their mouths and get away with it. Nobody listens to them. Nobody cares to listen to call them out on it. It's a damn total shame, and I think it's the reason why legacy media is dying. It's the reason why nobody's tuned into them anymore. The Congressional Budget Office, which is supposed to be nonpartisan, but we've seen them be pretty partisan over the course of the last 4 years, being forced to concede to Donald Trump, just as it seems everyone at some point in their life who's went against this man has had to do, about tariffs. They told us tariffs were going to kill this country. They were going to kill Americans. They were going to hurt Americans. Well, it turns out it's doing quite the opposite. And it may just help America pay off this debt, this national, massive trillions and trillions of dollars of debt that we've accumulated over the course of the last quarter century, and then some. Donald Trump forcing them to realize the truth of the matter. Take a listen.
I was very happy that today, as you saw, the group that does this, a government group, radical left group, announced that Trump was right, took in $4 trillion worth of tariffs, that the $4 trillion are going to reduce the deficit by numbers far greater than they ever expected or heard of. And by the way, the stock market went up 1,000 points. That was as of 10 minutes ago. I can't tell you what happened. A lot of things happened. But the stock market's up almost 1,000 points. And it's basically on the news that the release that just came out from government that the tariffs that everybody was talking about, that the whole world respects us for because of what we did, The tariffs are going to be at $4 trillion. They're going to reduce the deficit by $4 trillion, Mr. Vice President.
Pretty good, sir.
Too bad it's not five, right?
That's right.
It's had a huge impact, and the stock market is way up.
The Marxist Dems cannot be happy about Donald Trump wearing a hat in the Oval Office that says Trump was right about everything, but there's only one issue. You can't tell me one thing he's been wrong about in the last 10 years. I mean, I'm wrong every single day. Not particularly on the show, but about something, about anything. All of us are. But Donald Trump seems to always be, I don't know how he does it, on the right side of history and on the right side of the issues. I guess that's the reason why he's the greatest president of my lifetime and probably most of yours. Folks, we're going to take a quick break here. When we return, we're going to be joined by my good friend and a fan favorite on this show, Russ Tice, former senior NSA intel analyst and whistleblower. We're going to take up so much today. We're going to talk about the gerrymandering. We're going to talk about voting machines. It's another thing you don't hear about in the mainstream media. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Tulsi Gabbard and the great work she's doing at the ODNI, cutting staff by 50%, getting to the root issues of whistleblowers. John Bolton, by the way, in case you guys took off last Friday, like myself, we were doing a little traveling. John Bolton's house was raided by the FBI on Friday. Investigation. Apparently, it has something to do with classified documents. Right. Chris Christie weighed in on it. We're going to take all of that up on the other side of this quick break with Russ Tice, folks. Please stay with us. We're coming right back.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupting this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillows only $14.98. Queens $18.98. King size only $1 more. Body pillows $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase $9.98. Save $40 on our spring percale Giza Dream bed sheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Thanks, everybody, for staying with us here on The Great America Show. As I said, our guest today is a good friend of the show, good friend of mine. He was a great friend of the great Lou Dobbs, the great Russ Tice, former NSA intel analyst, senior intel analyst, and whistleblower. Russ, as always, a delight to talk to you. I guess we'll start with first, the Marxist mainstream media. Doesn't matter what Donald Trump says, what Donald Trump does, he's wrong. It's apparent to me that they want some sort of confrontation with Russia, whether it be he drop a bomb on Moscow or whatever he does, but it's just never enough. Diplomatically is not good enough, but then when he goes to handle things with confrontation, then he's a war hawk. I mean, could this man ever get a break?
No, not from the mainstream media. He won't get one, no matter what he does. Somebody put it, if he walks on water, he'll be accused of harming, potential fish that swim at the surface. So it doesn't matter what he does. President Trump is putting the squeeze on Russia by limiting their ability to sell their oil and other products, and that's ultimately that puts the pressure on him, especially if it affects their own economy. That he needs to do something. Plus, he's killing off his young men. Although Russia is quite a vast country, but still, you just at some point your own populace will say, "Hey, where'd my son go? Where'd my nephew go? What's going on here?" And so cutting off India or slapping them and potentially down the line threatening the SWIFT the SWIFT financial capability for the Russians. I think that's the hard slap there, but it's a negotiation, and we know that President Trump wrote the book on negotiating. He dealt with all the rough and tumble up there and up in your area there, the woods in New York, and that's a pretty rough area to have to deal with all the facets that you have to to do to try to build anything, I imagine, especially Manhattan. So the man knows what he's doing. The man deserves like 5 Nobel Peace Prizes all over with what he's done in Southeast Asia, Central Asia. Peace with Armenia and Azerbaijan and the Tice, Thailand and Cambodia and Africa, Central Africa. So, like I said, the man deserves not only the little ones, he deserves the big medallion, that he can.
Yeah,
he can
absolutely. He absolutely does, and the media will never give him the credit that he's due. But I mean, this is the same media, Russ. I want to go through some of the things and the hoaxes that the media has covered and fawned over the last 10 years. The Russia collusion hoax, the Inflation Reduction Act, that it reduces inflation. Trump calling neo-Nazis, quote, fine people. Remember that? The Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. Governor Gretchen Whitmer, she was apparently getting ready to be kidnapped. We find out that the whole thing was an inside job. Brett Kavanaugh being a drunk rapist. Knew that not being true. Trump said drinking bleach would fight COVID and fix COVID. Russia bombed their own pipeline. Remember that underwater? The Trump Russia tape, the COVID lab leak was a conspiracy theory. Trump was storing nuclear secrets at Mar-a-Lago. The Steele dossier, you remember that? The whole Russia collusion hoax? Remember all that, right? Andrew Cuomo showed the best leadership during COVID-19. Trump built cages for migrant kids. Trump overfed the koi fish in Japan. I had to get that one in there, being we're in Japan right now. You all remember that when Donald Trump just dumped the fish food in there that was given to him to feed the koi fish. But that was another one that they ran when President Trump was killing the koi fish in Japan. Build Back Better. It was going to pay for itself. That's right. Trump's tax cuts only benefit the rich. Cloth masks and those masks that we had to wear during COVID, they all prevented COVID. If you got the vaccine, Russ, you wouldn't catch COVID. Trump used tear gas to clear a crowd for a Bible photo outside the White House. Yet another one of their BS things. Ivermectin is a horse dewormer, and it's not for humans. Peaceful protests were mostly peaceful. Remember the Summer of Love? That was another one of theirs. Trump overpowered the Secret Service to take over the steering wheel of the beast on January 6th. You'll remember that. Officer Sicknick on January 6th was murdered by protests. Turns out that wasn't the case. The only people who were killed on January 6th were, conveniently, Trump supporters. Remember that, right? Russ, the list goes on and on and on. I think that's just to name a few about the complicity of the mainstream media and the BS that these people will spew. And they have no bounties, Russ.
John, you should turn that into a comedy club special with all that. It's just so laughable now that, and I think the American people have caught on that this is all laughable and a joke from the mainstream media, which is why the Communist Nonsense Network and the MSDNC or whatever they want to whatever now, WOW or whatever they want to call themselves, they're dying on the vine as they should. So it's the people are getting because of outlets like your own, independent news, and people are finally realizing that they can find the truth somewhere else. These leviathans, these dinosaurs, are dying like as if asteroids are coming in by the millions.
Yeah, and they're bleeding cash, which is good for us. The faster I believe in freedom of speech, Russ, whether I agree with it. Freedom of speech is not for you to tell me what I want to hear. Freedom of speech is for you to tell me what I don't want to hear, and that's what makes it freedom of speech, and that's what protects it. So I'm all for it. But when you've got a mainstream media that's out here brainwashing people and lying, that's not freedom of speech. Freedom of speech isn't you coming out here. Obviously, it's protected under freedom of speech, but you lying to the American people and you deceiving the American people, that's not what it is, and that's not what it's about. But that's what these mainstream media outlets have made it about. On Friday, Russ, as we were on a 24-hour journey over here to Asia, I got a little alert on the phone that John Bolton, everyone knows John Bolton and the big mustache. John Bolton, his house was raided by the FBI. Let's take a listen to what President Trump had to say about that.
No, I don't know about it. I saw it on television this morning. I'm not a fan of John Bolton. He's a real sort of a lowlife. When I hired him, he served a good purpose because, as you know, he was one of the people that forced Bush to do the ridiculous bombings in the Middle East. Bolton, he wants to always kill people, and he's very bad at what he does. But he worked out great for me because every time he doesn't talk, he's like a very quiet person, except on television. If he could say something bad about Trump, he'll always do that. But he really doesn't talk. He's quiet. And I'd walk into a room with him with a foreign country, and the foreign country would give me everything because they said, oh no, they're going to get blown up because John Bolton was there. He's not a smart guy, but he could be a very unpatriotic guy. I mean, we're going to find out. I know nothing about it. I just saw it this morning. They did a raid.
Do you expect the DOJ to brief you on this?
Yeah, they'll brief me probably today sometime.
And the foreign minister.
I tell Pam and I tell the group, I don't want to know, but just you have to do what you have to do. I don't want to know about it. It's not necessary. I could know about it. I could be the one starting it. I'm actually the chief law enforcement officer, but I feel that it's better this way.
So that was what President Trump had to say. He's saying he has nothing to do with it, letting the FBI do their job. But if we want to listen to Chris Christie, let's take a listen in and see what this idiot's got to say about the investigation.
Absolutely. And look, let's be fair. When we talked about this in the context of the raid of Mar-a-Lago, I said the same thing at that point, that a federal judge had found probable cause to sign off on a search warrant, which means there's something. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's evidence beyond a reasonable doubt of guilt to a violation of a federal law, but it means there's probable cause that a crime, evidence of a crime was kept at the residence where he was searched. Same thing applies to John Bolton. And in this instance, they got two judges. They got a search warrant in Maryland. They got a search warrant in the District of Columbia. And let's face it, John, the District of Columbia is not known as a bastion of, conservative judges. Right. So I would say that there's real evidence that they believe something is there. Now, let's see what happens from here. But I think it's kind of funny to hear the president, talk the way he does about Bolton and classified information. Yet when he had the classified information, the same rules didn't apply.
And to see the FBI director posting on X while the raid is underway, I mean, could you have imagined FBI Director Chris Wray tweeting while Mar-a-Lago was being searched?
I couldn't imagine Chris Wray ever tweeting. He wasn't on social media. Yeah. He was not someone who was a master like Kash Patel is.
All right, so Sarah.
Okay, I'm just in awe, Russ, because first of all, what Chris Christie didn't realize, because he was never president of the United States and he never will be, was Donald Trump had every right to have those documents because he's the only man who was able to declassify those documents. That's number one. He wants to talk about tweeting. He wants to talk about Kash Patel tweeting out as the raid was happening. How about CNN being outside my friend Roger Stone's home before the raid on his house even happened? What did Chris Christie have to say about that?
Yeah, normally anything Governor Christie says I consider to be a bridge too far, especially if you're trying to get from New Jersey into Manhattan or something. But it's at least he brought the fact that there's probably some truth to the reason why there's a warrant here for the search. But come on, as far as Bolton, if you remember the late Ozzy Osbourne's song "War Pig," every time I hear that song, I think of I picture Bolton's face, or Cheney, former Vice President Cheney, as being the quintessential war pigs of our time. But it's got to be something. I believe Trump that he's letting the Department of Justice do their thing. It sounds like I heard he might have been getting some classified leaked information on that's being sent to him either by email or potentially under the table. So if that information is there, then that certainly would justify probable cause for a warrant.
Yeah.
So,
not like what they did to Donald Trump, Russ. What they did to Donald Trump was selective persecution. That's what they did to Donald Trump. There was never any underlying crime for anything they did. Now that these people are being investigated for real crimes, and by the way, the Democrats are the one who set this new precedent that you go after your enemies. They're the ones who set this precedent when they went after Donald Trump and sought to jail him for 700 years. Donald Trump took the high road in 2016 and let Hillary Clinton skate. My opinion, it was a mistake because of what has now happened to him. And I stand by that. That was a mistake that he let her get off the hook with that, with the Benghazi stuff, with the emails, whatever you want to look at, whatever case you want to look at that he let Hillary Clinton skate by. And he got paid back times 100 for that, for what they've done to him. But if John Bolton is doing criminal acts, he's going to be prosecuted for it. If Fani Willis is doing criminal acts in Georgia, she's going to be prosecuted for it. If Letitia James in New York, go down the list, Cook over on the Federal Reserve Board. These people all claim Donald Trump was the criminal, yet they had skeletons in their closet, Russ, like there's no tomorrow.
Let's think about, the rape case in New York, supposed in a busy shopping mall or store, and the woman doesn't remember what year, the dress she said she wore wasn't even in existence at the time. She talks to Cooper on CNN and says that she thinks rape is sexy. Oh my God, this woman's a nut job. And then down there at Mar-a-Lago, I believe that probably just the swimming pool itself is worth $18 million.
Yeah. So
come on. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that this was lawfare at its finest and stupidest. But and with Mr. Roger Stone, the CNN setting up their cameras, before the FBI gets there. Come on, so we all know what this is. I can't imagine that President Trump, or even if he doesn't know, that Miss Bondi would do something like this without the real probable cause for the former National Security Advisor Bolton.
Yeah. You know what? Donald Trump's not going to get these favorable judges. The Justice Department's not going to get these favorable judges that the last regime got. So whatever case they're building, I think it's going to be a legitimate case, not this nonsense that they built against Donald Trump, that they built against Peter Navarro, that they built against Roger Stone, that forced these people to be pardoned for abuse of justice. I think what it's attributable to.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
These people deserve everything they're getting. Adam Schiff, every single one of them. He's your neighbor over there in Maryland, Russ. Apparently, he wanted to partake in mortgage fraud. That seems to be the thing these days. Mortgage fraud. I never even thought about that. Apparently, how easy it is. But these guys are all, and women are now all being looked at by Bill Pulte, who's going to be joining us next week on the Great America Show, FHA director, for insurance fraud. They were all throwing rocks, Russ, when they were living in glass houses. And they expect now to just cry retribution. That's not how it works.
Let the judicial system do its real job, and if they're innocent, they'll be found innocent. Yeah. If they've committed these crimes, they need to be accountable for them. And it's my gosh, what hypocrisy on the Democrats for this nonsense. Obviously, they believed that President Trump would never get back into the White House. And my gosh, it's him letting Hillary off the hook for what she did. I mean, that woman has her own legion of flying monkeys at the time she could launch it at anybody she wanted. So, someone still needs to pour water on her and let her melt away. It's just crazy. I am here in Maryland, and I'm a true Marylander, was born and bred here, and learned how to sail in Chesapeake Bay when I was a kid and hiked in the Western Mountains of Maryland as a Boy Scout. But you mentioned earlier about the gerrymandering. I have a little suggestion. Let's have of all the MAGA folks that live in communist states like myself, that we have a competition on who has the most gerrymandered districts, and give some kind of reward for it, John. I submit that this is Maryland's third district for our state. Now take a look at this nightmare. That's our third. How can any state beat that? I'd like to see some other contestants and what they can put up as far as my competition for the worst gerrymandered district in any particular state. But and the whole map is this is Central Maryland. If you were to look at that, you'll see that the third is not the only one that's a bloody nightmare. So it's come on, the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy ought to be a little caveat right next to the word Democrat.
Yeah, who else? They'll give you a run for your money over in Illinois, Russ. They got a few crazy ones over there. Wisconsin's got a few interesting ones. New York's got a few interesting ones. You're not alone in the madness of gerrymandering. Let's talk a little bit about Tulsi Gabbard and the work that she's doing. Let's start off with the voting machines. A few weeks ago, Tulsi came out and said that voting machines are extremely vulnerable to manipulation, I guess we'll say it, to keep it from not getting sued, because these people are feeling rather litigious these days, Russ, because they can get away with it, because they're allowed to use the courts to push whatever lawfare they want. It turns out it's not only criminal lawfare in this country. There's a civil lawfare. Fox settling a $787 million lawsuit against one of these companies, in litigation right now for another one of these companies. It's mind-blowing to me that nobody wants to get to the root issue and find out why there's people who are so vehemently against getting rid of these voting machines, and why for years before Donald Trump brought up the issue, the Democrats were in favor of getting rid of these machines, and why the code inside these machines that are controlling our elections, number one, is run by private companies, and number two, why it's so secretive. Why is everyone not everyone, but why are some of these rhinos on the right and almost 99% of the Marxist Democrat Party so against getting to the bottom of, are these machines vulnerable? Are these machines capable of hacking our elections? Why would they be so against that?
Well, if you go back to after the 2016 election, and you talk to a lot of these Democrats, they will deny the fact that President Trump won that election, and they'll bring up the fact that they believe that voter machine manipulation was a problem in that election. And matter of fact, there's a documentary, I think it's called Kill Chain. They talk about the vulnerabilities of voting machines. And this was the talk of the town after President Trump was elected in the first round. So now all of a sudden, oh my gosh, there's no such thing as any problems that could happen with a voting machine. And anyone that says anything, they're an election denier, and they live in la la land, and so once again it's the hypocrisy from the left that we just have to shake our head over. But it's come on now. Here's one thing that I know. I spent a fair amount of time with CIA and Langley, and I would talk to those folks, and one of their guys told me that the United States has used election machine technology overseas to rig elections or influence the votes of other countries. And I have no idea, I'm just hearing it from a source at CIA, or what machines or what companies, I don't know. but that's what I heard from this individual. And if you think about it, I believe that's probably true. And maybe one of the reasons, I believe that may be one of the reasons why the government is so adamant on keeping hands off on digging into this, because our own government may have been involved with this in the past, monkeying around with things overseas. And of course, a lot of other countries overseas are going back to paper ballots. And no tabulators, even the computer tabulators have been thrown out the window, because I think they know there's some monkey business being going on. So with that said, wouldn't it be a good idea if we ourselves, especially considering what the Democrats told us about the vulnerability and kill chain after the 2016 election, that we go back to the old school and do this with the paper ballots and get the results, like President Trump said that night, of who won, whether it be your guy or your gal or someone else's, to know what the true will of the American people was.
Yeah. In the 1700s, the late 1700s, Russ, when we had our elections, there wasn't no voting machines, and we found out who then was the president of the United States. We didn't have to go check tabulators. We didn't have to put it in a machine to figure out who won. You circle one choice, one vote for one person. It goes to that. Yet the Democrats now are just absolutely melting down at the prospect of the voting machines going away and the mail-in ballots going away. Anytime there's such uproar about that, I think there's this concern to be had. Tulsi Gabbard, who I think is doing an absolutely amazing job, Russ, cutting half of her staff at the ODNI, cutting some security clearances from some of the worst possible people on this planet, perpetrators of just absolute chaos over the course of the last 10 years against Donald Trump, against anyone who's associated with Donald Trump. Give me your assessment on how do you think Tulsi's doing? I know we'd spoken before she took the job, and intermittently as she took the job, and you had expressed some concern about her being a neophyte, and I think a lot of people have, but I've got to give her an A+, in my opinion, on the work that she's doing. As someone who knows the work she's doing, the inner workings of it, give me your assessment on how you think she's doing.
Well, I believe that she got set up with that national intel assessment with the Iran, yes. Possibly of nukes in Iran and spinning up the fissile material. And I think she's learned her lessons. I think she knows who she can trust and who she can't. And in doing, and she's proven that she is a loyal and dedicated person who wants to bring this riffraff to an end. And I at first I wasn't sure, but now I'm raising the banners for Tulsi Gabbard, and I think that yes, she didn't have an intelligence background, but think about it, John. Maybe that's what we needed. Maybe exactly. We needed someone who wasn't an intel weenie to get in there and clean this mess up. And but she still needs to have the right people to help her. But like I said, she's going in and looking at people's hopefully their government emails and seeing what kind of things that they're throwing around there. They might be against when you're an intel guy or gal, your job is just to bring the intelligence to whomever the president is, whether you voted for that president or not. You have basically, objectively, your job is to tell the president and to tell the national leaders what is going on, and they are the ones that create policy. They're the ones that make the decision. Your job is to tell them as best as you can what is going on, what the situation is, and their job is to run with that information. You don't have to say, "Oh, gee, I don't like this president, so I'm gonna put in some dirty information there to make that president look bad." Anyone like that needs to be fired, and in some cases need to be behind bars. And I think Tulsi Gabbard is the gal who's dedicated to make sure these things happen to some of the riffraff we have in our own intelligence community. And I hate to say that because I'm an intelligence guy, that we have been imbued with some of this this dirty dealing.
Yeah, if we don't have accountability for these people, Russ, we don't have a country. We allow these people to continue to undermine our democracy in our country. We do not have a country. And I'm over here in Asia, spending some time over here and in Japan. And, I said to you when we spoke on the phone earlier today, it's probably my second favorite country to America. Getting to learn about this country, you spent a lot of time here. I've got a special kind of respect for these people over here. They run an absolutely brilliant country now, a country with nowhere near the population of America, but among the 5 largest GDPs in the world. They don't have any immigration problems. They have no illegal immigration problems. The people here don't speak English, which I think is actually a good thing, Russ, because they speak their language. They speak to their people. And, I have a hard time getting around here, but that's fine. I respect these people. Whereas you go to America and you go to some places and they don't speak English and they speak Spanish to you or Chinese or whatever the language they decide they want to speak to you. The people here have a sense of pride that I don't think, a lot of people who migrate to America have. The way the thing is run is just absolutely brilliant, in my opinion, Russ. Not everyone who's born here is a citizen. Imagine that, right? You don't just become a citizen when you're born in a country. You have to run through a process. A man I was talking to told me it takes 10 years to become a citizen, to get a green card. You never become a fully citizen, but you get a green card to stay in the country. If you get fired from your job, you have 3 months to get a new job or you're out of there. So this is, I think, a model on how a country, and we're back on that track now in America, but this is a model on how a country should be run. Your thoughts, Russ?
Well, I lived a few years there, and when I was active duty in the Air Force, and I fell in love with Japan. It is a beautiful country. I traveled all over Japan. I was stationed in northern Honshu, and it's one thing I noted about the Japanese people is they have a sense of honor. And they take pride in their country and cleaning up and making things look nice, like President Trump is trying to do in D.C. right now. And they were just wonderful people to me. And I would I think I mentioned, I'm envious that you're there now and I'm not. So it's a beautiful place. The Japanese are wonderful people, and that sense of pride and honor. And I've traveled all over Asia. I've been to all those other countries in Asia. And as far as, I've seen some horrible things in places that I probably won't want to talk about. But the Japanese, they're wonderful people. And, aside from, actually, my uncle was killed fighting the Japanese at the end, towards the end of the Second World War. And he was a Navy frogman, precursors to the Navy SEALs. So, I go back there in a heartbeat. Wonderful place, a place, people with honor. And like I said, I wish I was in Shinjuku strolling through the gardens right now.
After we get off of you here, we're headed to the zoo to go see some pandas. But no, it's a testament, Russ. This place has been under predominantly conservative leadership, which kind of oxymoron. They call it, I guess, the Liberal Democratic Party here, which is their conservative leadership since around 1955, in the 1950s, switching for a few years in between throughout from 1955 to now. But you walk down the street, Russ, here, there's not a piece of garbage on the floor. You walk down the street here, I've seen maybe 2 homeless people throughout Osaka, Kyoto, and Tokyo. Maybe 3 homeless people. You don't see a drug epidemic. You don't see people on fentanyl and heroin passed out on the side of the street. You don't see bums begging for money. The subway stations are immaculate. Public bathrooms are immaculate. And as I said, the people don't speak the best English, and I don't care because this is their country. I'm here visiting, as it should be. They don't have to cater to me. I'm here visiting. It's nice if they do speak English, but, you find a way to get around it with translations and stuff. The cell phones have made it very easy these days. But that's what I think America should be like. This is what America could be like under great conservative leadership, as I said, since about 1955, give or take a few years in between, losing. Their political system's a little bit different than ours. It's for a different conversation that I don't think people care about. But it's just nice to see that there are countries still who love their values. And, I hope America can get back to that and solve this immigration, this radical issue of migrants taking over our country. Because if it doesn't, Russ, we're going to turn to a third world nation where English won't be the first language in America. That's what scares the heck out of me. And, traveling to a place like this really opens your eyes to what things could be, what should be, and what they shouldn't be.
Well, a hint: memorize the kanji, the written Japanese characters for wherever you're going. If you so you get on the subway, you know where to get off on your stop. And don't be surprised. A couple times, the subways are very jam full of people. A couple times, I got my own caboose pinched, and a bunch of young ladies are standing around trying to not laugh. So it was. I'm not sure. Should I file for sexual harassment because some young Japanese girl was having a little fun with me? It's a wonderful place, and like I said, I'm envious that you're there right now.
Yeah, like I said, it's a terrific place, and the sense of pride this country has, I think, is admirable. And I think Donald Trump's on his way to making America great again, as it should be. Russ, we can speak for hours. Always a delight to talk with you. Next time we speak, I'll be back, hopefully stateside. But always a delight to talk to you, and we'll talk to you soon, my friend. Be well.
Have a good time while you're there in Japan, because it's a wonderful place.
Thanks, everybody, for being with us today here on The Great America Show. We hope to see you back here tomorrow for The Great America Show, where our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. Till then, may God bless you, may God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs. Have a great night, everybody.